Alrighty, we are going to be taking a look at 13.2, which is law of sines, except apparently my Apple Pen is not going to work. So we've been using trig to find sides and angles of right triangles, but when you have, okay, now it's working. When you have non-right triangles, meaning there's not a 90-degree angle, you can't use trig. So we have a couple other little tricks up our math sleeve. So let's go for it. This one's called law of sines. And to do this one, you need to know matching angle and side pair. And by that, I mean an angle and a side across from each other, like big A, big B, big C, little c. And then you can use what's called the law of sines. So obviously you're going to be using sine in this, but it's not the same as, finding the opposite and opposite and hypotenuse like we've been doing. This is the law of sines, and clearly you can't use two equal signs at once, but you'll end up using two of the three, and you'll need to know three of the four things. The top here, you can see you're taking the signs of some angles, and then the bottom are all lowercase, so these are going to be sides. And so we're going to be using this to find sides and angles. So I would need to either know big A, big C, or big B, little b in order to use the law of sines. Keeping in mind that angles are going to be your capital letters, and then the angle across from it is going to be the same letter in lowercase. So if I'm here at angle A and I shoot straight across, I hit little side A, same with C, B, whatever letters they choose. So we're going to learn two things: how to find sides, how to find angles. So let's find sides first. Keeping in mind that these are not right triangles, so you cannot do like a squared plus b squared equals c squared to find the third side. But it is still true that the angles will total 180. So after we know, or if we're given two angles, we can find that third one just by subtracting from 180. So here we go. Like, I always like to set them up here. And you don't have to do this way, but this is just how I organize it. So you're going to see that in the notes. And if you're in my class, you're going to see me teach it this way. So what is given to me is that angle C is 53 degrees. Angle B is 44 degrees. I'm finding the angle A. This side 7 is going to be B because it's across from B. So that's going to be a 7. So I need to find A and C. C will be here. A will be here. So the side angle pair that I have is right there. That's what allows me to use the law of sines. And I can see it when I set them up this way because I have one row of information. Now, the easiest piece of information to get is actually angle A, because I can take 180 and then I can subtract the 44 and the 53 that they gave me, and that is going to give me 83. So that is going to be my angle A. Now, one thing to keep in mind is, like, this is the smallest angle, this is the medium angle, and this is the largest angle. So when I find my sides, this should be the shortest, a middle length, and the longest, just to kind of keep track of whether your answers are making sense. So this is all about cross multiplying. Here's how I set it up. I take what I know, the sine of 44 degrees over 7. That was the row that allows me to use law of sines. And then let's say that I want to find side C. I would set it up equal to the sine of 53 degrees over C. So you're always going to know three of the four things, and then you can cross multiply. And you can do that in several steps or not, depending on your comfort level. So like this has to be sine 7 times the sine of 53 equals C times the sine of 44. But since we're trying to find C, we're going to end up dividing by the sine of 44. So on this side, just cancels out. If you can go straight to this and are comfortable with that, great. Now, if you go to your calculator and you do 7 sine 53, make sure that you close that parenthesis before you go to do the divide by sine 44. If you do this correctly, you should come up with C equals 8.05, basically. And I don't know, it would probably tell you how many decimal places you need. And then I have to repeat that information to find side A. And so I just go through the whole process again. Sine 44 over 7, because that's the one that I know. So you're always going to have one fraction of information that you were given or that you know. And since I'm trying to find side A, I use the sine of angle A. And then I do the same cross multiplying. I'll end up taking 7 times the sine of 83, close that parenthesis out, and then divide by the sine of 44. And I'm getting that that's about 10.0. So these are the three that I found, this angle and these two sides. So it's very repetitive. It's not complicated, but you end up doing the same thing over and over and over again. Oops. So let's say that I am going to do side ABC, angle ABC, side ABC here. I know A, it tells me it's 118. I know angle B is 22. I can find angle C through subtraction. This is across from C, so that's going to be side C. And then this is side A, and this is side B. So again, the first thing I'm going to do, since I know two of the angles, is take 180 minus 118 minus 22, and I'm going to end up with 40 degrees as the angle that I didn't know, but now I do. And in this particular problem, that is necessary information, because then that is what gives me an angle inside across from each other, and that's how I can now set up my law of sines formulas to find sides A and B. So let's find B first. So I'm going to take the sine of 40, which is what was given to me, or what I know, and then I know its partner, side 24, so that was C. Now I'm going to do sine of 22 over B. I'll end up multiplying these two, dividing by that last one. So I'll have 24 times the sine of 22, close the parenthesis, divide by the sine of 40, and I get that B is 13.98, so it actually just rounds off to 14. Okay, then I go ahead and do the same to find side A. I go back to the pair that I know, so sine 40 over 24 equals sine 118 over side A. I'll multiply here, divide by that guy. So if I do that on my calculator, I'll have 24 times the sine of 118, close the parenthesis, divide by sine 40, and I end up with 32.97. So that would round up all of it to 33. So make sure you're practicing on your calculator and that you're actually going through the steps of finding those values. What if they don't actually give you a picture? That's why I like to write it out like this. Then I don't need to try to draw a triangle. I just write down what I know. I know C is 13. I know A is 22. And I know little c is 9. So I know that I can use the law of sines. And I also know I can find B through subtraction. So if I have 180 minus the 13 and the 22 that I already have, then B is going to turn out to be 145 degrees. So again, this will turn out to be my shortest, my middle, and my longest length when I'm done. So this should be my shortest number, or smallest number. So let's set it up. Sine of 13 over 9 equals sine of 145 over B. Multiply these two, divide by that other piece. So 9 times the sine of 145, close my parenthesis, divide by sine 13, and side B is 22.9. Alrighty, so that should be my longest side. Let's go ahead and find side A. So I'm back to the ones that I know. Sine 13 over 9 equals sine of 22 over A. Multiply these, divide by that other. So 9 times the sine of 22, close it out, divide by the sine of 13, and A is 14.98, so that would all round up to 15. So that's actually my middle length. So middle length always across from the medium angle, longest length across from the longest angle or largest angle, and so on. So now we know how to find the sides. It's a little tedious, but it's not complicated. So now we have to figure out how to do this to angles. How do you find angles? Keep in mind that you absolutely need to use sine inverse at the end because that's how you find angles. So if you're trying to find an angle, you should immediately be thinking, I'm going to need to use inverse. So let's do that. So here we go. Our angles will add up to 180 still. So if we find 2, we don't have to do inverse to find the third. I can look at this one and say I'm able to use law of sines. And it says here, find the missing angle measures. So we're only going to be looking for the angle measures on these, not every single thing. Oh, actually we are. They have little f. So let's just write it out. Same thing that I always do. Angles and then the sides. Angle U is 105. Angle, oh, that's the only one I know. So this is not one where I can add them up to 180. I'm going to have to find them. But across from U is little u, which is 13. Across from N is little n, which is 6. And then across from F is little f, which I also don't know. So we are able to use law of sines because of this. So let's start by finding this side here, because I need to know 3 of the 4 things. So I'm going to set it up as the sine of 105 over 13 sine of n over 6. So now when I do a cross multiplying, I'm going to do 6 times the sine of 105, and I'll be dividing by the 13. Now when you do that, try it on your calculator. 6 sine 105, close the parenthesis, divide by 13. You actually get a kind of weird decimal, but that's because it equals the sine of n. And here's where your sine inverse comes in. You would do sine inverse on your calculator, second sine, of that decimal that you just got. So if I do second sine of that answer that I had, I get 26.5. And 26.5 is the actual angle measure. And so I end up with an angle here of 26.5 degrees. Okay, now the way to find this is to take 180 minus 105 minus 26.5, and I end up with 48.5. So once I have 2 of them, I can still find the third one by subtraction. And then to find side F, I'm going to have to use law of sines to find a side like I've been doing. So let me make a little space here. I would set it up probably with these 2 and have the sine of 105 over 13 equals the sine of 48.5 over side F. Multiply these 2, divide. So 13 times the sine of 48.5, close my parenthesis, divide by the sine of 105, and I'm finding that side F is about 10.1. So again, this is my shortest side, smallest angle. Here I have my medium side, medium angle, and then my longest side, largest angle. So it's really not that different. It's just that you have to do sine inverse. Looking at this right away, I can see that I'll be able to use the law of sines because I know side A here across from A. This is side C across from C. This is side B across from B. So when I jot down what I know and what I'm going to need to find, I know angle A is 82. I know side A is 29. So that's my pair that I can use for law of sines. I know this side is 20, but I've got to find these 3 things. Since I need to know 3 out of 4, I'm going to have to find angle C first. So I'll have sine 82 over 29. That's what I know. And then sine of angle C, which I don't know, over 20. Multiply these 2. So you always multiply the diagonal. Sine of 20 times the sine of 82. Close that out. Then divide by that 29 on the bottom. I get 0.6829. But again, that's equal to the sine of C. So my last move always has to be the sine inverse of that answer. So inverse sine of that 0.6829 is going to give me an angle measure of 43.1 degrees for angle C. And then angle B, the last one, I can always find by subtraction. So if I do that, I end up with 54.9. And then to find B, I just use my law of sines for finding sides. So I'll use these two setups. Actually, I'll use these two since the A was given. That way, if I made a mistake, I will be using the given information. So I'll use sine 82 over, it wouldn't matter, you'll end up with the same answer, but I always just like to use the one that was given in case I made an error. So I'm going to multiply these two, then divide. So 29 times the sine of 54.9, close it out, divide by the sine of 82, and I'm finding that B is about 24 once it's all rounded off. So super repetitious. I know it's a lot, and when you look at the work, it seems overwhelming, but it's super methodical, so hopefully that makes your life a little bit easier. Okay, so here's a word problem, and I already know I'm going to have to use law of sines, so I already know it's going to be a triangle, and I already know it's not going to be a right triangle, or I would be using trig. So you and your friend are playing catch 75 feet apart. So here's me, here's my friend, here's 75 feet apart. You both see an eagle soaring above. The angle of elevation from you to the eagle is 64 degrees, so up from me, and the angle from your friend is 87. Your triangle does not need to be perfect, it just needs to be labeled. And then up here is eagle. Find the distance between you and the eagle. Well, here's me, here's the eagle, this is what they're asking. That is a side, so I will not be using inverse. All right, so in order to do this, I need an angle pair. So if I have me, I have the eagle, and I have the friend, I know the friend's angle is 87, and I know the angle by me is 64. I know the side across from the eagle, so little e, is 75. And the one I'm trying to find is actually across from my friend. Even though that's the measure from me to the eagle, that's the one I'm actually trying to find. So the problem is I need a pair, and I don't have it because M would be over here, and I don't know that. So this is what I'm trying to find. And so what I would do is find this third angle, because that's easy. I can do subtraction. I can take 180 minus 64 minus 87. And then when I do that, this angle turns out to be 29. Now I have what I need. Now I can use the eagle information to find that side across from the friend, which would be the distance from me to the eagle. So I'm going to set up sine 29 over 75 equals sine 87 over the side that I'm looking for. And I'll cross multiply and then divide. So 75 sine 87, close it out, divide by sine 29, and I get that length that I was looking for is 154.5 feet. So this over here is 154.5. Okay, so there's just really this one formula that you're going to use. It's just a matter of knowing how to do sides and then how to set it up to use angles, because you got to do that sine inverse. Alrighty, thanks.